Hey everybody, welcome to Atomics on a Friday. How's it going,
It's
Paul?
Friday. Living the dream, Mike. Living the dream, as the kids say.
Yes. It's really
They still say that, right?
I think so.
I hope so.
We'll figure it out. Yeah. Right. Yeah. We're gonna fit in one day.
Eventually.
Everybody, yeah. I think we've given everybody a minute to check in, so maybe we'll just get going. Sounds good. Sorry, I was trying to get a file moved over, but it's not working. Yeah. Welcome. So kind of kick off with just the standard intros, and we have an extra special guest here today. We're diving into LOLDrivers, which Jose and I'll just bring him in. He's so special to bring him in now.
Let's go,
buddy. Yes. Let's keep it all a secret. So, but yeah, we kicked off our project, LOLDrivers. It's public. Probably heard of it. Then yeah, go into some demos and stuff. Yeah, everybody's a Haag beard today, which is awesome.
I'll get the beard template out and make it public, so then we can all become beard Haags in our own right. So I'll get that wrapped up today.
Excellent. I know we need to officialize it somehow.
Can we like Creative Commons this? Okay. Is that the right term?
That's a great question. Why not?
We should probably get a lawyer at some point.
We'll just complicate things.
Then we're gonna lose all our images and all of our
exactly. Yeah, then the lawsuits are really gonna start flowing.
Everybody's 15% hating on this picture.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yes,
good old Goots.
Exactly.
But before we jump into it, Jose, would you like to introduce yourself for the people who may not be familiar with you?
Yeah. So, very short-winded introduction. I've been a blue teamer pretty much most of my life. I started off in a SOC, ran a SOC for a while, co-founded a company to mitigate DDoS and web application firewall attacks. It's now part of Oracle's cloud security offering, and was a Splunk for quite a bit. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I've been doing threat research for quite a bit now. Again, that's what I was leading the threat research team at Splunk for a while. Now I'm Lacework doing that. It's a poor introduction. I don't know. I'm horrible at intro.
I mean, if you've watched any of our series.
Yeah, I'm just a dude.
No. A couple security dudes.
Bio somewhere about that. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm a monkey with a keyboard, basically. Give me the space. We'll get it done.
You need to make the emoji. I am the chaos engineer.
I am exactly. Worst QA ever. No. I need to make that Cuban Shan, the Jackie Chan of.
Yes, that was a great analogy this morning. Yeah, I'll go next. My name's Michael Haag. I think everybody knows me now, but I think from the perspective of today's conversation and some feedback we got, I think a little bit more by background may make sense. And we'll get into it, I think, a little bit more too. But I've always defended an organization. I worked at Red Canary. I was there for 4 years, as an MDR. We defended orgs all the time. My background, I am not like an offensive engineer, kernel developer in any way, shape, or form, but drivers definitely very much interest me. I spoke about them quite a bit in the past and whatnot. And so that's kind of what led us up to where we are today. So I'm excited to really share this project with everybody and get more feedback and contributions and whatnot too. But yeah, that's the very short abridged version of what we'll get into.
I'm Paul. I'm a principal threat hunter at Red Canary. I had nothing to do with this project. I'm here to ask questions and hopefully stimulate the conversation a little bit. Mike and Jose are the masterminds, so it should be a good time. That's my intro. You can go watch the other ones for the rest of it. Get those subscriber counts up and those views up.
Yes. I know, we forgot our introduction. Our introduction is, I don't know, click the button.
Yeah.
Hit like, subscribe, comment.
Turn on notifications.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That one. Notification systems, of course.
Yeah, I know. We need to ship an ICS file eventually.
We'll get there.
Special little sounds in it.
Yeah.
Yes, not a malicious one.
I just don't want one of those.
It does not have anything UNC in there at all.
Nope, not at all. This one's coming for you, Keith.
I'm too happy for a Friday. I love it.
Yeah, I am all jacked up on coffee today, so this is good.
Salud. See?
I mean, I call it coffee. We'll just leave it at that.
Keeping coffee.
Yes.
Right. So
Yeah, LOLDrivers. Let's get into what it is a little bit here. The genesis of this idea, this project, right? It goes back more than, and I think we've actually talked a little bit about kind of like historically how I got into a driver thing a long time ago. Back in like 2018 at Red Canary, Casey Smith and I were hunting around, and we ended up finding a malicious driver on disk. And yeah, I was just kind of, I share this every now and then. I have a CBR, carbon black response query GitHub repo that shares or shows a lot of like my binary data store type queries. And I was just kind of hunting through there, found a weird driver, started questioning it. And at that point, you know, it led to, you know, this thing was here for persistence. Yeah. It was there for a long time. It had at least been there before we found it. It was there for a few months, which is really interesting. And, you know, and it brought a lot of questions up. Casey and I started asking a lot. Casey knew a lot more about drivers than I did. And at that point I was like, this is fascinating and extremely new to me. And I don't understand like this. And so from then on, I would hunt fleets everywhere and looking for drivers and trying to understand like how can I differentiate good and bad, and this data just sucks, right? Like we have vendors, or Broadcom, great example. Broadcom will put, you know, one release they'll have a period, and the next release they won't have the period, but they'll have a space at the end of their name when they sign it for company name and stuff like that. And every single one had a variance, and they would be in different paths and all these questions, like, and it was just like, man, like this is a extremely hard problem. And my 4 years at Red Canary, I think I found two evil drivers across all these endpoints and all this data. I could only find two, but there's probably more, right? Like, and that's where all this comes from, is like, how do I know what's good and bad? And as new defenders come into the industry, or as someone who is just finding LOLDrivers now based on, you know, Twitter or the blog or whatnot, and if you've never heard of drivers, like there's a crap ton. And this is where it gets interesting, is and like what we wrote about at Red Canary was just give me an inventory, because I don't even know where to begin. And you know, I tweeted, I think a week or two ago or something, I can't remember, but I shipped a Splunk query that will do a PowerShell inputs. It runs like a driver query against the endpoint, and it'll pull it in, and you can Splunk it. And so now I could technically deploy this across my fleet, run it daily or whatever, and just have a giant inventory of drivers. But when you look at it from like an EDR perspective, it's just collecting, right? Like maybe they fire on the fact that it's evil. And thankfully, like groups like Elastic shared this massive data set of YARA rules and samples and everything like that. You can go on VirusTotal, you'll see them tagged now. It's amazing. Like we didn't have this 6 years ago or 5 years ago or anything. And so then as I was digging into drivers in general, just like finding bad ones, there's tons of repos out there. There's lists out there. There's you know, people, there's like the LOLDrivers Project, FizzMem, there's private gist with like tons of data. It's all dispersed and just everywhere. And as a defender for an organization, it's either you go off one list or you just kind of like, I don't have all day to look at drivers. It's important, but I can't focus on this full time. Like there's CACbot, there's evil running around in my environment, you know, like there's actually things going on where drivers is kind of sitting there and persisting and you don't think about it. It's quiet, low and slow. And so kind of the idea with the project was, you know, after my talk at the DFIR Summit, which you can find on the YouTube, I was like, you know, I even have a page on the slides. It's like, here's all these sources, like go and find them, you know? And it's like, that's cool. But as a defender, like I don't have all day to go hunt these things down. But what if there was a resource, a place that I could go as a defender or even like an offensive engineer or somebody, right? Like, where can I go to like see them all in one place? And there's a reference to it of where I can find it, or like go and read their blog about it, or see more. And so that's really like where LOLDrivers came from, is just like as a defender, where, like how can I find these things? Where's a good central place for all these things? And yeah, it's a big project, obviously. Like there's a lot to it. There's a ton, and I'm grateful that when I pitched it to Jose, he was like, let's do this. I was like, all right. So yeah,
I love it. It's a good problem to solve, I think.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but
it's huge.
There was a Splunk blog correlated to it, right? With all the work that you did.
Soon bear, soon cat. Soon.
How was that?
It's coming. No,
No
it's
wonder
not
I
out
can't
yet.
find it.
Yeah, it's not out. It's staged. It's ready to go. Jose knows what that means. It's waiting.
Put it on the mule, and the mule needs to cross the river, and then we'll get published.
Yep. It's like Oregon Trail, right? Like
the mule may
get broken axle. Like, okay, like let's fix the axle. Wait, I don't have axles. Like,
oh man.
but yes, it will come out soon. So I think the best reference right now is that DFIR Summit talk that I have, at least from me.
I think, Mike, you did put a Medium blog out though, like covering, I think the general features of the project, which I think honestly you did a great job on.
Yeah,
I thought it was a great summary.
Yep. If I can find it, I'll share it.
Medium for the room.
Track it. Oh, I got it.
Yep. Okay, at least someone knows what we're doing around here. Yeah. So part of the release is we shipped a blog. We wanted to kind of to be, enough to kind of get folks going. I can read this and understand like the problem we're trying to solve, helping folks, what is this? Like, why does this matter? What's the importance of this? And yeah, there it is. If I could only click it, I would share it. I guess
Check that. What's the other one?
I got it.
Oh, you got
Here we
it.
go. Living off the land. Yep. Cool. All right. I'll share my screen, or a screen. But yeah, I'm very excited about it because, like I said, years ago we didn't have this, and I think it really does shine a light on something that is extremely low and slow, and most organizations are not looking there. But yeah,
when we started kind of asking around folks that we know about doing this project, one of the things that to me was like mind-boggling was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. Like most people's feedback was like, yeah, we definitely need one location for this. Like how many, at least I've heard it from like 3 different folks, like, oh, this is needed. Like I wish they would shine more light on the problem. And I'll be completely honest, I'm probably not the driver expert in the room at all, but shining light on difficult computer like security problems are have like part of my career. And so I don't know, I like subscribe, right? Like subscribe, let's do this, you know.
Yep. Yeah, I know. And same here. Like I said, the genesis of the issue itself of a malicious driver is still fairly new to me. Like I'm no expert, you know, I'm not an offensive kernel developer or anything, you know, and it's a hard problem to solve. And I see from like both angles, like this project is kind of like, oh, cool, but you know, where can I download this driver, or where's the CVE, you know, things like that. And I think Nasruddin mentioned this on Twitter too. Like there's some of these things don't have a CVE tag to them. Like you can't just go to CVE index or Google it. Like it's a mess. You know, this problem is a very big problem. And I'm glad that like we're able to kind of like put this all together in one place and really give folks like the opportunity to come in here, find it in one location, understand what's going on, even if it's a reference just like right now, a reference back to like the FizzMem or the Screwdrivers project, or even to like Elastic's work. That's a great reference. Like go back, read what they wrote, read what, you know, why these other, you know, groups are even talking about those particular drivers. Like it's all informative and super informational, because again, we didn't have this years ago in a central place to know where to go, what to do. Yeah, that's that.
So like, let's jump into the site. Like, what's the structure of it? Why is it kind of created the way it is? Like, what's kind of some of the ideas? As so like, it's kind of a big undertaking, right? Even just thinking, I think it started out as just a CSV of just grabbing a bunch of the known stuff from like the Microsoft block list that wasn't blocking drivers allegedly. Yet to be proven if it is now. But right, like it started out with some of that, and then some additional sources from known things. But like this is like the beginning of it, right?
Yep. Yeah. So kind of like behind the scenes, when we kicked it off, I wanted to make the project extremely easy to contribute to, because it's a lot of work, right? Like there's tons of these drivers out there. So how could we do this? And my initial idea that I had pitched to Patrick, who wrote the initial code, and then now to Jose, who like built everything at this point, was like, hey, I got a CSV. It has all these drivers in here, 271 of them. How can I make this quick and easy to generate all the YAML files that follow some set of a schema that we can use? And so we wrote all of this into a CSV. And as you can see, there's like it's just a lot, right? Like, and some of these have multiple hashes and all that. And so, and the references are all here too. Like it's all of this. We've made this giant spreadsheet of everything. We had to dedupe it. So there are instances, I thought about this morning, there are instances where when we deduped it, it may have removed a resource. So some of these might be on like the Microsoft block list, or it may actually be on, you know, the FizzMem site or something, and it only went to one of them. So it might only show the Microsoft block list, but truly it's on both. There's a lot of things like that, right? It's just a ton of data. And another person we worked with at the beginning too was Matt, not Max on Twitter. He had practically the same idea of this project, and I feel like he almost had the site done. So kudos to him. He helped a lot on this initial CSV as well. And he had the idea of like creating the different categories. And I was like, I love that idea, because there are different categories of drivers. And we do call this out on the blog. Like initially we have vulnerable driver, and then we have like malicious driver. And so I'm showing on the screen, you know, the content. These are the malicious ones down at the bottom. These are the drivers that were developed by an adversary, used in a campaign. So there's like Daxon, there's the Portray one from Mandiant, and then Sentinel-1, similar campaign to the Portray one. So just kind of like merged all those in, because again, it's a great central resource to have all these things here ready to go. Started from that and moved into, we were generating everything off of this CSV initially. Let me share that, because Jose just popped that in there. And this code in particular is our YAML generator. It literally took the CSV, parsed out everything, and because we were trying to automate the creation of 250 plus YAML files. We couldn't do it all by hand. There's a couple fields in here we haven't even exposed or used yet, like how to block it. If you wanted to create a block rule or something like that, like that's all there. We just haven't exposed. And then, yeah, I don't know if Jose, you want to drop any extra context on this, but this was pretty cool.
You're muted.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you. Should probably learn how to use that, buddy. Yeah, so I maintain. I'm one of the maintainers and involved with LOLDrivers Project and a Tomorrow team. So like similar under the hood, engineering wise, they're kind of familiar, like similar in the aspect where like you have a bunch of YAMLs and then you're producing some sort of site and you're checking those YAMLs and so on and so forth. I think the one thing right away when you and I started talking about it, was like, oh, how about, wouldn't it be cool if we just use like a CSV to keep like all the drivers in one place and then just have automation, like build the site and, like build the YAMLs and build everything, like just like have a master. And it's much easier to edit a CSV than a bunch of YAMLs, but like we quickly realized that wasn't going to work. Like very quickly, we're like, yeah, this is not going to roll. So
it was Paul in my head saying, but does it scale?
Literally. It's funny because that's all I think about is like as we're going through this. So I'm glad I at least started instilling that in Mike, and hopefully it spreads to everybody else. It's like, yeah, it's gonna work for like 5 or 10, but you get to like 5,000, is it gonna still work?
No, I think the breaking point was when we're trying to do like validation on some of this. Like, yeah, we can't validate YAMLs that are getting stumped over by some CSV, and there's no validation. And like it became very messy very fast. So we're like, okay, how about we just do like this one-shot convert of all the 250 that you have tracked into a bunch of YAMLs, and then we just yank out this whole like capability, which is really, if you look at the link I sent, that's what we did. We just tagged a branch with like removing all the CSV stuff and all this generation stuff, and now it's all driven by YAMLs. But Paul, going back to your question, like how do we all start this? Like that was literally the genesis. Like generate a bunch of YAMLs, and then we layered a site on top of it, like this whole like it's basically a Hugo site with a specialized template for documentation, and we customized the heck out of it to look like what it looks like right now. And again, happy to dig into kind of what that process is, but that was a genesis. It was a giant CSV file, literally, how the whole thing started.
One of the things that interests me in this particular case is that even though you have similar components that are going to, characteristics metadata of a hash or of a driver, there's inconsistencies in some of the data provided, signatures, publisher information, etc. How did you battle that in a structure and validation schema? Do you have to say like, well, if it should have this, but if it doesn't, right? Like, how'd you overcome that?
You want me to take a stab at that one, Mike?
Yeah, go for it.
I didn't write it.
We don't? I'm kidding. No, so right now the validation, there's first of all, validation script is like an amazing contribution by Nas. Nas who wrote most of this code in here. I'll paste it on the chat. But it's mainly just validating like names, and you have like a proper hash in there and things like this. It's not going into the actual data and validating the data itself. But another thing we did, again, and this was just to, like in the initial CSV list that Mike put together, there was a ton of hashes that were like, for example, like we had a bunch of drivers like MD5, but they didn't have the SHA-1 or SHA-256. Or we had the SHA-256, but not the other hashes, and or the publisher or the signatures. What we did is, and actually this was a suggestion from Florian. He was like, hey, why don't you guys use Munin, hit VT for that data through Munin, right? And then use the output to enrich whatever fields are missing in your YAML. And I'm going to give you another script. So I kind of linked this script together one night to do exactly that, right? Like I ran Munin against our all the hashes, and actually, so NASA put together a folder called hashes, which I think now it's called detections in the repo. And I just ran Munin, and I'll link Munin here really quickly as well. I'll put it on the chat. But yeah, I ran muning against that folder, produced a JSON file, and then that script basically eats that JSON file and enriches all of our YAMLs with the missing data. And that's, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily call it validation, Paul, but it's like the clean way of kind of getting the stuff that we're missing and not like overwriting things that we knew were correct already. Right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me dig up.
Yeah. And the thing, so the other half of this is there's obviously a lot of enrichment that's missing. And when we say enrichment, that's all the publisher signing, all the metadata that we don't have in there. Yeah, he changed the name. I was like, it didn't work, man. There's all kinds of data, obviously, that's missing. And so Nasruddin and I, we're working to enrich all of that now, because it's going to obviously fill in any kind of reporting that we currently have on the front page of the site. We want all that to be filled in. So it looks cool. There's some great information, but also is like when you're like browsing the site, you'll see it when you like dig into one of the samples. And it's just like that extra context that instead of having to go to VT or run SIGCheck or something locally, it gives all that stuff, like it contextualizes it right there on your screen. Obviously it enriches the whole site, which is, sorry, I was just switching screens again here. So here's like a sample, come down here. We only exposed the signature piece and the hashes, right? There's a bunch of fields where we wrote in, and I think Jose, you did this, is you had written it to where if there's nothing in like the other fields, it basically just doesn't expose it right here. So that's why it's all hidden, those other fields. But once we fill those in, once we enrich them, it'll be all filled in.
Yeah, so pro tip, the YAML has more data.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And like, yeah, I think to Mike's point, like that was mainly like usability. You don't want to see a bunch of like empty fields unnecessarily when you look at the site.
Yeah.
But hardest bit was first getting the initial list. Second hardest bit was kind of like, I think, putting the site together and having like a format that works, right? I think we iterated on that YAML structure 2 or 3 times. That was kind of key as well. I think, Mike. I don't know for whatever.
Yeah. It was huge. Yeah. It took some time because like, yeah, we wanted to make sure it was right. And so here's the other fields down here. We'll get this enrichment going and that'll be added, right? Because I think that's one of the more important pieces, is getting this in here. And we had some great comments for adding certain things like authentic code hashes. So we're going to add that. We'll have that in the repo here. We'll have obviously all this metadata added and whatnot too. But yeah.
Part of it also, I was going to mention, part of it was also I was wanting to get the project out there and start getting feedback. Like we could have probably polished a whole lot more for another 2-3 months. But then I don't know. I'd rather get the feedback early. You know what I mean? I think both you and I, Mike, were like, just get feedback, just get it out there, see what comes out. We were like happy enough with it at that stage, right? But yeah, it's an evolving. I think it's an evolving thing for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, I think something that's super cool about the project as well is like when we got Nasruddin and Florian in here, the focus went to like, okay, like what about detection, right? And so like, I know, Jose, we talked about too, like, let's make it to where like you could download it in a CSV or JSON. But what was awesome was Nas was like, no, like, let's create a Sigma rule. Like, let's make this Sysmon. Yes. Yeah, I was like, oh, that is super cool. Cause like, boom, now it just like auto generates with all the hashes. And if you're using Sysmon, you can block it.
That gets built with CI, right? So like, that's the other cool part, right? Yeah. Like that's like every time a new Java gets changed, updated, or added, boom, Sigma rule gets updated, right? Like I don't know, I love automating. You know this, Mike. I love like I'll automate myself out of jobs. Like I'm excited. I know that's a little thing, but I'm excited about that little thing. Like
yeah, it's super cool. And it's funny too, because we got the CSV piece in here, because like, and when I see that, it like truly is like that's like the OG form of this project is a CSV. And now I think that auto generates too, right? Like that just
He went back to its roots.
Yeah.
Full circle. Started as a DSB, all the way back to CSV.
We got rid of it to bring it back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it makes sense though, right? Because a YAML is great for using it to structure the data in a way on the web page to neatly display it. But from an operational standpoint, right, it makes sense to just slap it all in CSV and then rip it into whatever format you want. Even putting into things like a Sigma or, I see like great uses thinking of like Surveyor, which is a tool for like baselining and querying EDRs. So now it supports Defender for Endpoint, Sentinel-1, both Carbon Blacks, and I'm drawing a blank on the other one. Cortex is either coming or coming very shortly. Which again, take the CSV, pipe it in, create a def file, let it rip. And there you go. You can start actioning and seeing what's in the environment, even if you don't centralize things into like a SIM or some other logging platform.
Yep. I actually, someone mentioned a couple times on Twitter about WDAC, and I was like, I wonder if we can automate a WDAC creation. And I was like, okay, why not, right? Like, I mean, it could be very, very large, but it would be interesting. And so I started digging into that a little bit, and I think that might help when we get the like authenticode hashes in there too, and whatnot. But yeah, there's a lot that we could at least provide quickly here.
So,
yeah, go ahead, buddy.
There's a whole bunch of great stuff already. Like, what's kind of on the roadmap? Like, now that it's released, you've gotten some feedback. Like, what are kind of the next steps, and how can people like contribute? Like, what are you looking for support?
Yeah, I'll start with the contribute side, and then we can get into the feature stuff. I created this app, this site thing. It's just like a Python page. It's from Streamlit, and it's meant to just break down that barrier of contribution to make things extremely easy here. And so it's as simple as this. Like, I'm going to do this one. This is in memory of Casey. I don't think he was able to make it today. He's going to love this. And, but he had shared a driver with me, and he's like, oh yeah, like take this. And I'm like, oh, I will do this live today, buddy. And so I have the content on the sidebar over here, so I'm just going to copy paste stuff. But basically this page, this app will allow you to go in here. There's a evil driver, and I can just pop things in. I drop in a resource. If I have like a hash, like that's even better, because I think I actually do. I think that's a SHA 256. I don't know. We'll find out. Do it live. And you can just like toss all this stuff and then hit generate. And then now quickly, Casey just submitted his first driver PR to the project. Copy this, open your fork, do whatever you want to do. Do a fork, create your PR, and ship this new YAML in. Obviously, add anything else you want to add. The Munin script will enrich it with the other hashes and whatnot if it's on VirusTotal, things like that. So that's like the ultimate like fast way to contribute. And I made that literally just so that this could be like in and out. Like folks can literally just write this up, ship it. I don't even care. Like if you open a GitHub issue and just paste the YAML in there, I'll happily PR it for you. It's that easy.
Sounds similar to some of our other open source projects we maintain. I hope no other maintainers are watching this call. I'm just kidding. Kind of.
Oh, there's like three of them sitting here.
He's like frantically scanning GitHub now.
It's like, where else are these guys working on? But yeah,
you see the PRs left.
Yes. And then so the other side, thanks Jose, is we do have a YAML template. If you want to just take this and just like copy, paste it, do it that way too, like that's always there for you. There is a contribution like guide as well. We tried to cover like kind of like some of those like basic things, so that it was pretty simple, and whatnot. So there's like lots of words and things like that, but there's a little contributing section that has links to everything. Streamlit app is right here. But yeah, so there's a lot. And then if you want to build it and play with it locally, it's pretty easy to do. What was your second
feedback we can get now? Like literally, it's been, I think, within an hour we got like our first PR, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
I was excited about that. Like I think it was even by Rasta
Mouse.
Yep. So anyway, I was super stoked about it when I saw it come in. What was I gonna say?
Right here.
Yeah. We'll take any feedback. Like I think that this is out there now. Like whatever, in many ways, this is a project for the community, right? Like it's we built it for us, but really to help the community. So whatever the community thinks it's really the way to evolve it, then that's the change we'll make. I don't know. That makes any sense at all. Like it's a resource for people, so we'll take the feedback.
Yep.
Work it.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. It's great.
Should tell them about Verify, Mike. I think that's super cool. Like Verify.
Oh yeah. So yeah. All right. So we went around and about, because I was telling Jose, I was like, man, like some of these drivers are just they're not on VirusTotal. And so you gotta remember, I curated the CSV by hand, and Matt and I worked on this thing, and it was just like, okay, like is this on the internet? Like how do I even get this hash? Like where'd this come from? And so I was talking to Jose, I was like, man, like I feel like we need a way to show people that like we actually verified this driver. And so like in particular, this one comes from Eclipsium, who wrote like the whole thing about screwdrivers. And so I was like, well, like we can verify this because I can like go to VirusTotal, it's on there, like it's on there, like cool, like all right, good. So let's have a way to say that it's been verified. And so I think, Paul, you called this out too, which was the image is actually the Twitter verified. Awesome.
We're getting those lawyers sooner than we thought.
It wasn't me, man.
That's so good.
It's a good icon.
And so then, like,
it works. Play for blue. The driver played for blue. Literally, that's what I'm just kidding.
Yep. So, and then the other side of it was like, there's the drivers that we don't know. Like, I mean, it's on the Microsoft block list, right? Like, okay, there's some like signal that this is out there, but like I can't verify it. Like, and so there was some great feedback we got from Joe Desmond at Elastic. He mentioned like, hey, a lot of these are authentic hashes. And I was like, dang it, like, okay, cool. So that feedback, I think, will turn into, when we add the authentic code stuff in here, the hashes, we will have it to do a VTI query for the authentic hash. So if you click it, it'll take you to VT. You can search based on the authentic hash. So that'll be our next thing. Which I think will be a great add here for all of them. Like you can do that for all of these now. And then we could change this to blue verified. And if you want to corporate sponsor this as a corporate organization, we'll put a gold badge right here, or silver, or whatever the
logo. What do you mean? Like extra premium, we'll put a little favicon of the logo in there. Like
for $8.99
$25,000 a year.
We'll put your company's logo on it.
Yeah, exactly.
One paragraph, like marketing pitch, right under the driver if you like it.
Yeah, exactly.
Platinum sponsors only.
Premium route.
Paul, you're muted. Are you saying 1 square foot of land in Scotland for extra platinum? Have you seen that? Like, we'll name a star after you.
Yes, gotta pay $8. It's $8 a month. That's right. Thanks, Nas.
You gotta pay $1 for the gold, though. Yes.
Yep.
Gold's dropping prices. this time of year.
Was it like, is silver like $1,000 or $5,000 or something like that on Twitter, like to verify your company? It's an amount of money. It's not cheap. It's not
I thought you meant like actual like metal silver. I'm like, wait, what's going on?
No.
Twitter silver. I have no idea. I didn't even know that existed. Today I learned. That's awesome.
So good.
Yeah, what do you think?
I'm excited for it. There's a lot of opportunities here. I think it's just not thought of enough, or kind of at the forefront of people's minds when thinking about the attack surface. And I think it's picking up steam. It's been around. I just don't think it's had enough. So hopefully this kind of like surfaces more to people to kind of go look at the drivers in their environment, and start taking action on them.
Yep. I see a comment here. Oh, go ahead, Jose.
No, go for it, Mike. Sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, I was going to say there was a great comment I see here from our Twitch followers. I'll just say that that's a good one. Have we seen anyone use this list to add relationships to reports beyond the source material? Honestly, no. I not yet. I'm going to leave it at that. I think that's the answer. Is not yet. Like I suspect we'll see things come out of this project, especially the CSV, or the JSON or something. Like I think there's a lot of avenues and it's, I don't know, it's a lot of data, and there's a lot of ways to put things together for this. I was curious, and mainly based on a comment I got from someone at Red Canary, Kyle, and Kyle was digging into this project over there, and I was like, I wonder how many orgs or teams out there like not dropped everything, but was like, oh, like, let me see what this rumbling is. Like, what is this project, and seeing this and saying like, how can we operationalize this, or how can this help us, and I was curious about that, especially after Kyle hit me up. I was like, I wonder how many teams like not dropped everything, but just like was like, oh, I'm going to dig into this and see what's going on. But yeah, that's a shower thought.
One of my favorite things that I saw happen as we like announced this is I think also in parallel there was another project called like Living Off the Land. It was like the Mac.
The
Mac
Orchard,
Binary.
living.
The Orchard. There you go. Sorry, I totally like the name escaped me for a minute. And like Living Off the Land farming joke that Justin started running with, and he registered. What was it, like lolol.farm or something like that? I don't remember now the domain. It was hilarious, right? Like
LOL.farm. I think
that was lolol.farm. I can go back to Twitter and find it. I think it was lolol.farm.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
That was funny, man. Pointing back to Obvar's tweet with all the but one, I found that hilarious. I made my day. Two, it just speaks to the bottom. I think of this industry is, I don't know. I'm an optimist.
I
don't know, man. Like all this is good stuff. Like this is us as an industry really helping defend our infrastructures. And I don't know. That just gets me excited. It makes me happy, right? Like, yeah, it's a perfect no. Do we have a bunch of projects describing all this stuff? We do. But it's a step forward. Like I don't know. Like this is the most I've ever seen in my career. Blue teams collaborate and share in this manner, and that just makes me super excited. Sorry, rant out, or whatever.
No, it's totally true, because it's like we're getting everybody involved, like and everybody sees things differently when it comes to drivers, and there's EDRs will show this and that, or some won't show anything about new drivers being loaded, and Elastic, their blog was so good. And like being able to share all these YARA rules back to the community and hitting things on VT, like that is money. Like everybody, like it's helping the whole industry. And you go, it's funny, when I was working on the initial spreadsheet, you'll hit drivers and only YARA, that one YARA rule from Elastic fire on that one driver. And that's it. That's the only signal we get out there as a defender. Like okay, like maybe it's bad, maybe it's good. I don't know. There's no CVE. I Google it. There's nothing, you know, and thankfully like Elastic shared all this stuff on their Git, on their repo. They have everything in there to like at least help us, right? Like, yeah, it's great. And there's others too who do this and who have shared all this type of information, and it's awesome. But yeah, I agree. It's great to see such a community rise up and shine a light on some hard topics, like especially drivers and whatnot. This is awesome. But yeah, what else is on our agenda?
Did we hit it? I don't know, look at the slides.
Oh, you said what's next?
Wait, we had an agenda?
Yeah, what's next?
I'll flip back to the slides, but yeah, there's a lot, right? Like I think as we're seeing the feedback, you know, we talked about authenticode hashes and getting all that enrichment done, which will be immense and a lot to help. I think I actually shipped a list over to Jose this morning. Let me find that list. I have a list too. It's not just everybody in the public scene, but I got my own list. Yeah, add the enrichment. There's like, we had a comment, which I totally agree, like having like the author name and like the SC command on the main page. Like, I think changing the main page and like that table view would be super cool to like add whatever other information. We just didn't know going out the gate. We were like, we'll just toss these 4 things and call it. We'll see where it goes. But I think as the enrichment rolls in, that'll help fill in that main page there for us. We've had multiple requests come in from all of our followers asking about the ability to download the driver and have it referenced back, you know? So obviously you can go to VT and get it. But I think, Jose, we were kind of talking about it this morning. Like, what if we host it ourselves, which is fine, or why don't we host it on something like Malware Bazaar or something like that and use all their tagging, so it's very public like that. So I don't know. That's one more. Another piece of great feedback I got was like the idea of like the SC command was like just a quick way to, you know, if you actually had it, like you could run this thing. It was 2 lines. It's meant to be 2 lines, but the comment was, well, it looks like 1 line. Yeah, you're right. It does look like 1 line. So adding like the double ampersands, which is such a, you know, easy win, but it makes sense. I get it. What else, Jose? What's on your list?
I think you went through my list and your list. Okay.
I know. The list is big. There's more.
I think there's also another issue somebody opened was like with his own list of drivers that he was tracking on his own as a red. I don't remember the team or not, but it's like, hey, you guys should include this. Like, I was gonna do something at some point, but you already have the site. So I think that's something that we gotta burn through, right? But to Mike's point, I think it's gonna be a bunch of adjustments in the user interface. I think that additional enrichment component we're still missing. There's a lot of fields that are still missing data, so getting that like tightened up and nicely. I think those are like immediate next steps, and then we'll see where it goes from there. Again, a lot of this stuff for me, like personally, we'll see what the community wants out of it and how they end up using it, right? Like, yeah, but definitely tidying up and like we already got a shower of like initial feedback that if we just implement it, it'll make it a ton better, right?
Which is exciting.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's it. I don't know what else would be next? I haven't thought that far.
Any components that you would like somebody to take on that can help out and kind of alleviate some of the massive lifts on your plates that somebody, if they're interested, maybe create the issues in GitHub, and then people who are interested in, you know, whether it's coding or submitting stuff or prettying up the UI of the website, like any thoughts into that?
I think we'll take maintainers. I don't know, Mike. Sorry.
I honestly think there's a lot of drivers that adversaries have generated, and so if you want to just drop those into the GitHub issues, or if you want to drop the list of hashes or links and the reference and whatnot, I'll take that to start, because the category that we put like adversary created ones under is malicious. So if I would like to beef that up, so we have, I think there's like 3 different groups right now within there. So, but I would love to get more of those in there. And obviously if we're missing any actual like vulnerable drivers and things like that, yeah, just ship some issues or a PR. I mean, we try to make it easy. Otherwise that's it.
Right on.
I think I can think of, I don't know about you, Jose.
No, I think like, look, it takes a village for some of the stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll take any help we get. Like, I don't think we've thought a whole lot about like maintainers group or something like that. But I don't think that will hurt long term, especially like if we start getting consistently a bunch of PRs and I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that is probably an evolutionary step for the project, right? We literally just launched, but Paul, to answer, I guess I think we'll definitely take any issues and PRs folks have, but like more so we'll need help like maintaining it longer term. I think for our work, especially if it becomes a resource that the community leverages actively. You know, like primary reason again, all those detections are out there. There's a CSV and JSON, and so. And like, to your point, any tool can take it and like leverage it. If this is happening a lot in the industry, oh man, we're definitely gonna need to help maintaining this. Because we wanted to have it as tight of a list of drivers as possible, especially people running it in their environments.
Yep.
Yeah. Help, please.
Help. Whatever.
or not, but please help. I'm kidding.
Yeah. Help. You should have had a sign ready.
Please help. Exactly. It was the little like Slack emoji blob with a little sign. Help.
Yeah. Blob help.
Yes.
No, it takes a village, right? Like this has been a solid how many, like 2 months roughly, Mike? Like you've been on it longer than I have. Huh?
Yeah, I think I started like that initial weird website back in December, remember? And then the CSV has been around a lot longer. That CSV has been around too long.
It takes a village. Like this iteration of it, it's like 2-3 months, and clearly we're not even. I don't think we're like 60% there, right? Like in the sense of like, yeah, we have a site. Like a lot of the underpinnings have already been built, but like all this thing needs so much tightening, right? Like the YAML checker, for example, like we can definitely check against like a spec file. We don't even have a proper spec file to check against. Like little genuine things like this, which like make the quality of the contributions a lot higher. We kind of skip through them just to get the release out right now. Yeah.
Soon. Blob soon.
Right, like, no. I think we're like, I don't know. I'm personally just basking on the happiness that we got this out the door.
Yeah.
On Monday, we'll come back. Here's the to-do list.
Yep. Oh yeah, we had a shout out slide. But yeah, massive to obviously to you, Jose and Patrick and Bohops and Naz and Florian and Matt. Like everybody really helped and provided some great feedback. Those initial, like just pitching it to Bohops and getting his feedback and what we should do with it and path, and it's all very, very amazingly helpful. So I don't know why I wrote shout outs on there twice, but it did. I think I copied it from somewhere. But yeah, check it out. That's it, right? Like I think ultimately get on the site, check out the repo and kick the tires and shoot some feedback back, or tell the industry what you're doing with it. I think that's kind of going to be the next phase here outside of just contributing. Like what are folks going to do with this data? And, you know, I would love to hear like other like EDR vendors, like what they end up doing with it, or if this changes anything for like how people view drivers, or you know, what big product change may come out of something like this little project. We'll see.
That's an interesting point. I'm curious how people action this, whatever that is.
Yep.
Detections, prevention. They hunted stuff down. Like I would love to hear stories about that. So if you got them, share them.
Yeah, you can hop on Atomics on a Friday and we can listen up. That would be awesome. that would be a great way to share more on the project.
Absolutely.
Jose, thank you so much, Jose, for joining. I know you're a busy man.
Yes.
We really
Pleasure.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I hope you all have a good weekend.
Yeah.
You too, buddy.
Catch y'all next time on Atomics on Friday. Toodles, y'all.